This was once a house of legacy, a seat of honor and lineage. The Calibus family, nobles of the Empire, lived within these walls. Their halls echoed with ceremony, their gardens with laughter. And then, in a single night, it was all undone. Her father Sidonis was found poisoned in his chamber, his final breath stolen by treachery. Her mother, Mia, was cut down outside that same door, her head severed in merciless display. And in the garden, where she once played as a child, her sister Donalek's blood soaked the soil. Her life ended by the same cruel blade. The servants, Ye, Janet, and Jennifer, loyal to the last, shared their fate. Only one survived, Pompeiana Calibus, heir to a family line reduced to ash. Hunted by traitors, she stood in the ruins of her inheritance, her grief still raw, her life measured in seconds. But nobility doesn't yield so easily. With the psychic gift of the skip, Pompeiana vanished from death's reach, and in desperation, summoned the Empire's hand. Troopers, janissaries, turrets, steel and fire answered her call, forming a shield. She cowered beneath falling shells. A young noblewoman, a queen without throne, watching her birthright burn. This is her story. A tale of ruin, of vengeance, and of rebuilding upon the bones of what was lost. The rise, or fall, of Pompeiana Calibus. When the smoke cleared, and the deserters lay broken at the feet of the Empire's soldiers, Pompeiana Calibus stood amidst the wreckage of her birthright. Fire clawed at the manor's walls, devouring silks and portraits, reducing memory to ash. But with a flick of will, she called forth water from the air itself. Torrent after torrent smothered the flames, steam rising where they met the inferno. In one chamber, the heat was too fierce, the air blistering. Still she pressed forward. Fire scorched her skin, branding her body as it had her soul. Even pain could not keep her from her duty, to save what fragments remained of her home. And when the flames were gone, she turned to the bodies. The traitors who had desecrated her family's halls lay scattered, their lifeless eyes staring into nothing. Pompeiana dragged them beyond the site of the manor, not out of mercy, mind, but necessity. She would not grant them graves, not here, not upon soil consecrated by her bloodline. They would rot in exile, carrion for the beasts. And so, alone in silence broken only by the crackle of cooling stone, the last daughter of Calibus began her first night, a noble without court, a sovereign of ruins. Pompeiana's wounds throbbed with every step, the burns from the manor's fire searing deeper than flesh. Somewhere beyond the ruined walls lay Glitterworld medicine, relics of an age of wonders, scattered in the wilderness just out of reach. She set out to find it, body weak, but her will unbroken. But grief is a weight that crushes more surely than steel. As the silence of the manor pressed upon her, the truth of her solitude struck like a blade. Her family gone, her servants slain, her house reduced to embers. Her spirit faltered. Overcome, she drifted into sorrow's grasp. For 20 long hours, she wandered aimlessly through the ash and stone, her mind lost to the ravings of despair. Neither fire nor blood nor ruin could move her. She was no longer a noble, no longer even a survivor, but a shadow walking without purpose. At last, hunger broke the spell. Her body dragged her back to the master bedroom, where once her father had drawn his final poisoned breath. There, among the wreckage, she tore open a survival meal with trembling hands, eating as though in defiance of fate itself. Then, exhausted beyond measure, Pompeiana collapsed upon the bed, surrendering to sleep in the very chamber that had become both tomb and sanctuary. When dawn came, Pompeiana rose from her restless sleep with the weight of sorrow still pressing upon her. Yet duty demanded action. She retraced her steps into the wilderness, back to the scattered treasures of a fallen age. There, among the weeds and stones, she found what she sought: glitter world medicine, salvation, and sterile glass. With careful hands, she treated her burns, warding off infection, then gathered the rest and carried it home. A quiet triumph against the void that had sought to claim her. But fate had left her more than medicine. Near the corpse of a deserter lay a vial of coma, a forbidden draught said to be distilled from the blood of immortals. Desperation overcame hesitation. Pompeiana drank, and within hours the blisters and seared flesh knit themselves whole. Her pain faded, leaving only scars, reminders etched upon her body of the night her house fell. Then came the truest test, to walk among the dead and grant them peace. In the garden where once her sister laughed among the flowers, Pompeiana dug 3 graves with blistered hands. She placed her sister, Donalek, at the center, their parents' graves flanking her on either side, a family bound together, even in death. On the far end of the garden, 3 more graves took shape. Into them she laid Ye, Janet, and Jennifer, faithful servants who had lived and died in the service of her house. In silence, Pompeiana Celebes lowered each into the earth, the soil drinking her grief. By dusk, the dead were at rest, and the garden was no longer a place of joy, but of memory, consecrated by her tears. That night she slept once more, the silence of the manor broken only by the restless winds that swept through charred halls. When morning came, Pompeiana rose with purpose. The dead were at rest. Now the house itself must be tended. She moved first to the generators, their flames still fed by precious fuel. For whom did they burn now? No court, no feast, no family remained to bask in their warmth. One by one she extinguished them, siphoning the fuel for another day. There would be no waste, not while she still drew breath. Then she returned to the garden, to the 6 graves standing like silent sentinels. There she knelt in meditation, her mind steeped in darkness. Morbid reflection was her solace, her focus drawn from the presence of death itself. Among the graves of her blood and her servants, she rebuilt her strength of will, drawing upon sorrow until her thoughts sharpened into steel once more. When at last she rose, her path led her back to the master bedroom. The fire's scars lingered there, scorched floorboards, blackened and broken, mocking her every step with reminders of ruin. And so, she set herself to work. Plank by plank, she replaced the wood, restoring dignity to the chamber where her father had died. In this simple act of repair, Pompeiana declared her intent. This house may have fallen, but its last daughter would not dwell in ashes forever. By nightfall, the master bedroom stood renewed. Marble walls, once fractured by fire, restored by her wary hands. And when her work was done, Pompeiana Celebes lay her head to rest, her heart still weary, yet steadied by labor. Each repair was more than stone and mortar. It was defiance, a whisper to the void that she would not yield. As dawn rose once more, she turned her strength to the earth itself. Just beyond the garden's fence, beside the graves of her kin, she carved furrows into the soil. Grain and root, rice and potatoes, the humblest of crops, yet to her they were lifelines. Hour after hour she worked beneath the sun, bent low, her hands in the dirt, a noblewoman no longer cloaked in finery, but in toil. Then came the first test of the wilds. A porcupine, driven to madness, charged across the field with quills bristling. Pompeiana had no blade, no armor, only her will. She seized a broken length of wood, her makeshift weapon, and stood her ground. With her mind's gift she struck, the psycast of stun freezing the beast in place. Again and again she struck, till its fury was silenced, though not without cost. Quills tore into her legs, bloodied reminders of the fight. She had prevailed, but survival, she learned, would demand a toll from her body as much as her spirit. The porcupine's quills sank deep, barbs laced with agony that no unskilled hand could draw out. Alone, she faced a surgeon's task beyond her reach. And so, Pompeiana turned once more to the vial of coma, the blood of immortals. She drank, and, as before, it struck her down, body collapsing under its alien power. Yet within hours she rose again, whole. The wounds closed, the quills gone, so the beast's fury had never touched her. Only the memory remained, bitter and sharp. Freed from pain, she turned back to her house. Where walls had fallen, she raised new ones, timber set in place of marble. Crude work for the heir of Celebes. Her hands clumsy, her craft poor, yet the walls stood, defiant and true. She allowed herself the smallest ember of pride. Night fell, and with it, rest. And when morning came, she returned to the graves in the garden. There among the dead, she drew her strength once more, meditating upon loss till her mind sharpened and her will steeled. By afternoon, she was back in the fields, pressing seed into earth, completing the planting she had begun. Where her house had burned, now green would grow. Where blood had fallen, life would rise again.